Welcome to part 2 of setting up your MinMod stream package. We just went over setting up your start, BRB, and end scenes along with the countdown timer. And in this video, we are going over setting up your chat boxes and labels that show up on screen over the overlays. Back in StreamElements again on the My Overlays tab, we are going to hit New Overlay. And similar to setting up the start, BRB, and end, we are going to drop in our overlays via static image. We're going to change position, size, and style. We have to do this for pretty much every layer we drop in here because it doesn't automatically resize to the image that we put in, but that's okay. Once we do it, it's done. Click center widget for good luck, and then we will upload the main display. So here you see we have room for the main screen, whether you're doing productivity, art, gaming, everything goes there. We also have room for the webcam to fit in, and we're going to click upload and then submit. And here we go. We have the full overlay sitting here looking nice. And next we are going to be setting up the labels. We have followers, subscribers, cheers, and donos. This one is Twitch oriented, and we're going to do that with labels. Labels are different than alerts. Alerts are the banners or whatever image or video pops up when you get a new follower or subscriber. It's not what stays on screen the whole time. That is labels. So we're going to go labels, followers, and I like to go recent followers, so that way we can cycle through and you can show more names at the same time instead of showing just one. Like, I like to go down to 5, that way people's names stay on screen a bit longer. It's a nice incentive initiative for following to show up and be a part of the stream in some capacity, so being able to cycle through recent names helps those names stay up a little bit longer, which I like. We're not going to touch position, size, and style just yet. We're going to come down to text settings, and like the start scene, I chose Open Sans, but what we're going to do here, we're going to come on down to Oswald. It's a more condensed font, and for all the information we're putting on the main display, we want to make sure that it fits and it doesn't take up too much space. I'm actually going to drag this down now to the followers section. You see it lines up decently well, but we're gonna play around with it a bit, clean it up. So first, I'm gonna turn off text shadow, not something we really need. I like to go for all caps. It's a bit of a cleaner look. 24 for the font size is a bit big. So I think if we come down to 18, and let's see if we turn off bold. Yeah, if we turn off bold, that looks pretty good. So that way it's not fighting the visual hierarchy of the titles above. We're gonna drag it on down. We have the gray dash we can line it up with, which is nice for us, but you see it goes over into the next section a little bit too far. So now we can come into position, size, and style, and we're going to change the width to about 350, and that looks pretty good there. Gives us some space before the next area starts, so we're going to work with that and move on to subscribers. You're pretty much just going to be repeating the exact same steps here, so it is a bit tedious, but once you're done, you're done. You don't have to worry about it. And a neat little tip: if you line it up with the followers box that we just made, it will immediately snap to it. So that way you can have it set at the same level. It can be a little bit tricky. Here we can move the bar out of our way. This way it can automatically line up by attaching. So all you need to do is I'm using the right arrow key to push it over and give it just about the same amount of space. That looks pretty close. These will rotate once you have it in OBS. Oftentimes, once it's in OBS, you will have to restart the software to see the ticker box go. So it will go through all of it. And here we go again. Cheers, labels, bits, latest recent cheers, down to 5, position, size, and style. Change that to 350. Text settings, Oswald, already selected. It knows me now. 18, not bold, caps, no text shadow. Bring it on down. It attaches. Beautiful. Move it on over. That's looking pretty good there. And last but not least, we have donos. So we're gonna go into tips, latest and recent. There's a little bit less room at the end for donos, so we're gonna go for 300 and see how that looks. I don't have any recent donations, so nothing's gonna show up immediately. But what we can do is click emulate, and then we can emulate a tip event. And what that does is that will put filler content in. And same like I said before, if you drag it right up next to the previous box we set up, it'll automatically attach and line up. So here we can just get this looking about good. And it goes right to the edge, which I don't like. So we're gonna come back into position and style and change it to 285. That looks about good. Gives about enough space at the end there. And we are set up with the followers, subscribers, cheers, and donos. So the next step is setting up the chat. And we don't have to do a separate overlay or anything. We're doing that all here. We just need a new layer, stream tools, your streams chat. Boom, we can have it in on the same StreamElements overlay as our labels, which is pretty nice. Keep it all together on one page. We're gonna click and drag it over here. So I'm gonna line it up so it's just under the chat. And what you wanna do is give enough space. I'm gonna move the bar at the bottom again. You wanna make sure there's enough space on either side here. And you'll see it it moves down at the bottom a little bit. And then once we drag down here, the right side sticks out. It's a weird programming issue. We're not sticking with black, but we're just using this to size up. Keeping the border of white around will keep it looking a lot cleaner. It's not just the text, it's the names, it's the subscriber badges, there's bits, there's everything going on. So we want to make sure that it's not coming up right against the edge so it looks like it's misaligned. So keeping the border around here is pretty important. But I like having the clear background. So up here in theme, we're gonna change it from dark chat to custom. And by default, it makes it completely transparent. So that doesn't affect the text specifically. So I'm gonna type in here, testing the chat box. And that'll take a moment, and it shows up here in our text box. That's looking pretty good. We don't need to do anything with position, size, and style because we were able to do that by ourselves by dragging the corners and lining it up the way we want. And then we're just gonna set up with Oswald again. Going for a condensed font helps to fit more in. And then we have 18 for the labels. Let's see how 18 looks here. Depending on readability, legibility, you can go for whatever size you want. I think 18 looks pretty good, but you have to consider if your chat, if there's a lot of mini novels going on. Some people like to write a lot and you'll end up having paragraphs. You might want to go for a smaller text size, but I think 18 for now matches quite well. Because if we come and type more in here, so if it takes up a couple of lines, it looks like that. Pretty good. So that is setting up your labels and your chat box for the main display. And don't forget, we are going to come up in here, the name, MinMod Red. And I call it that because we have the big window here for whatever you're displaying, whatever you're capturing. And we're going to click save. And now we're going to do the same for the chat scene. So new overlay, 1080p, labels, static custom, add image, 1920 by 1080, center for good luck, and set image. We're going to upload, and now we are uploading the chat screen, and then submit, and it takes up the full size here. Same as with the main display scene, we're going to be setting up the labels and the chat box here. Same as the main display scene, we are going to be setting up the labels and the chat box. It is going to take a little bit here. It just, like I said, it's tedious the first time, but once you're set up, and you are good to go. So recent followers, position, size, and style. You can see that this is smaller than it was on the other scene. So let's see if 200 looks good. We have a bit more room to play with. 250, too big. 220 looks good here. So we're going to stick with that 220 by 50. That's perfectly fine. Text settings, we're going to come back and use good old Oswald. Bring it down to 18, undo bold, make it all uppercase, and take off the text shadows. Now we just, with the arrow keys, I'm nudging it down so it sits center with the gray dash, and that's looking pretty good. Next, we're going to move into labels, subscribers, latest, recent subscribers. Ta-da! Same thing again. And similar to what I said with the main display, here in the chat panel, if we attach it right to the bottom, it'll stick to the first label that we set up, and then we can just hit the arrow key down to try and line it up with the gray dash that we have here. Next, the cheers, labels, bits, latest, recent cheers, snap it to previous label, and then arrow key down to line it up. Donos, labels, tips, latest, recent, snap it to the previous, and arrow key down, line it up. And last but not least, we are setting up the chat. So default, this is the size, same as the main display. We're gonna give it a white border around. So we're just gonna carefully drag the side of the box over, give it a little bit more space than you have on the left side because it has its weird reformatting thing that it does. So it jumps right over, look at that, it's lined up. And we're switching from dark chat over to custom, and that gives it its fully transparent background, and you are good to go. And then under text settings, we're gonna switch that to Oswald as well. 18, ding, that's looking pretty good. And maybe here, because the chat scene has a bigger chat box, maybe you wanna go bold, make it a little bit more legible, a little bit bigger. Maybe we increase the size of the text to fit the scale of the chat box. All of that is really up to you, but that is how you set up your labels and your chat boxes for your scenes.